What matters the most in geopolitics? You could say policy or ideology or maybe public statements. But we say equally important is appearance. It can send the biggest signals. Just look at Syria's new leader, Ahmad al-Shara, aka Jolani. Look at his transformation over the years. In 2016, he was a typical jihadist leader, white turban and a long shaggy beard. Once the rebels were beaten back, he disappeared. He worked mostly in the shadows. But late in November this year, he appeared again, this time in a different avatar. The white turban was gone. Instead, Jolani opted for military fatigues, quite similar to Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. This was last month. Cut to late December, he is a ruler, the man who overthrew Bashar al-Assad. So even the military fatigues are gone now. Jolani is turning up in a suit and tie. He's basically repackaged himself to suit the role. And this transformation is quite remarkable. We're talking about a man who fought for Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State, two of the biggest terrorist groups in the world. So on paper, he should be a pariah. Yet look at how the world is courting him. On Monday, he met ministers from Jordan and Qatar. Jordan promised to help Syria rebuild. Qatar agreed to invest in Syria's energy sector.
The Qatari side has voiced its readiness to begin large-scale investments on Syrian land in all fields, most importantly in the energy sector where they have a high level of expertise on the global stage, but also in ports and airports and so forth.
Before this, on Sunday, Jolani had other visitors. The first was a Druze leader from Lebanon. The Druze, as you would know, is an Arab minority. The Druze live in Lebanon, Israel, Syria, and Jordan. By hosting a leader from this community, Jolani was trying to send a message that minorities will be safe in Syria. After this, he hosted the foreign minister of Turkey. And once again, Jolani was promised support. Turkey said that sanctions on Syria should be lifted and there should be swift rebuilding.
Lifting sanctions against Syria is of the utmost importance for the normalization of Syria and for security to be established in the country. The necessary preparations needs to begin immediately regarding rebuilding Syria.
It's almost like Jolani won an election because everyone is racing to get an audience. The Arabs, the Turks, the Europeans, the British, the Americans. Last week, a US delegation met Jolani. They said the talks were good and productive. Jolani promised that terror groups would be driven out of Syria. In return, the US lifted the bounty on him. Washington had $10 million on Jolani's head. Now that bounty is gone. Just think about how absurd this is. A terrorist is promising to crack down on terrorism. And this should sound familiar because the Taliban said the same thing in 2021. After capturing Kabul, they promised to drive out Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. Back then, the world was more cautious. But in Syria, they're buying it hook, line, and sinker. The question is why? A big reason is Syria's strategic value, its energy reserves, its location next to Israel, and its new rivalry with Iran and Russia. All of this makes the new Syrian regime more appealing to the West and some Arab players. But that's not the only reason. Jolani's tactics have made the rebels more palatable, more acceptable. He's given interviews to the BBC and CNN. He's invited journalists to his office in Damascus, and he made sure to say the right things.
Syria is exhausted by wars, and we now need to strengthen and grow Syria and create prosperity within it. So there should be no plans for an aggressive Syria at all. As I have said on many occasions, Syria now does not pose any danger or threat to any country in the world.
He says all minorities are welcome, even the Kurds. And this is significant. Remember, the Kurdish groups are supported by the US. They control land in Syria's northeast. During the last decade, the Kurds and the rebels fought each other. But now Jolani is extending an olive branch. He says, surrender your weapons, join our peace talks, and let's rebuild Syria together. This is exactly what the world wants to hear. But will Jolani follow through? Today we saw some worrying pictures. Islamists burnt a Christmas tree near the city of Hama. Take a look. Jolani's men say the attackers were not Syrian. They have promised to capture them. They have also promised to restore and light the tree by tomorrow morning. Let's see if they live up to their words. And frankly, that should be everyone's strategy. Wait, watch, confirm, then reach out. Not rush in to embrace a man who fought for al-Qaeda. But if you're Jolani, well, congratulations, you have clearly cracked the code. If you want a job, just dress and act the part.